rotational motion, sixth lecture. It is in the previous lectures we have discussed with you about the torque, angular momentum, and all the equations for rotational motion we have already discussed. Now the new quantity which we are going to do today is that is moment of inertia, that is denoted by capital I. The term with you is moment of inertia, and it is playing the same role as the mass is playing in the linear motion. It means you can say it is movement of mass in a, because we have done already that mass is a measure of inertia. So in place of saying moment of mass, we are calling it as moment of inertia, and the role is same as is played by the mass in the linear motions. To understand this term, you have to have drawn this diagram with you, showing a rigid body consisting of n particles having the masses m1, m2, m3, m4, so on, and the distances, perpendicular distances from the axis of rotation. If I wish to rotate the body about the z-axis, if this is z-axis, body is here lying and all the particles are rotating about this axis, then I have taken the perpendicular distances with me for the particles m1, m2, m3 equals to r1, r2, r3, so on respectively. So these are the perpendicular distances, and when I want to find the moment of inertia of this rigid body, then I have to add the product of the mass of each particle and square of the perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. So I'm getting R moment of inertia, that is equals to m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus so on mn rn square. Or I can say I, that is equals to mi r I square. This, of course, if I want to go in detail, I can find by the knowledge of kinetic energy of rotation, that kinetic energy of rotation, if I am rotating the body with the speed that is equals to angular speed omega, if I take the kinetic energy in linear motion, kinetic energy in linear motion, that is equals to, it means translational motion, that is equals to 1 by 2 mv square. If I take each particle that is moving with velocity v1, v2, v3, like for example, I am taking for the first particle. So it will be equals to m1 v1 square, and v it is equals to r omega. So if I put the value here, I will be getting kinetic energy that is equals to 1 by 2 m1 into r1 omega square. So I'm getting it is equals to 1 by 2 m1 r1 square omega square. So for the first particle, if I want to write the kinetic energy, that is kinetic energy rotational, that is equals to 1 by 2 I omega square. This is for the first particle I1. So on comparison of the kinetic energy in translational motion, half mv square, I'm getting here kinetic energy for rotational motion is half I omega square. Comparing this value of I am getting for the first particle, I will be equals to m1 r1 square. So from here only we have introduced this term on comparative study of the linear and rotational motion. If I make the body to rotate about the z-axis, then the angular velocity with which it rotates, if I'm taking it as omega, the linear velocity is v. Then on comparison, I'm getting this term with me, that is moment of inertia. For the first particle, it is coming out to be m1 r1. Similarly, for second particle, if I take, it will come out to be m2 r2 square, and so on. I'm getting mn rn square. So I can write it briefly as summation of I equals to 1 to n mi ri square. So it means if I want to define the moment of inertia, that is equals to the sum of products of the masses of the particles which are contained in the body and square of their perpendicular distances from its axis of rotation. So this is the definition for the moment of inertia, which is I'm getting simply by comparing the kinetic energies of translational motion and rotational motion, because we know the relation that V it is equals to R omega. So if I want to write the dimensional formula, because it is mr square, I can say, so the value of dimensions will be mL2T0, and units are kilogram meter square in SI system and gram centimeter square in CGS system. Of course, it will take it as a scalar. So you have seen, if I'm taking the particle is on the y-axis, then you have to take care of the perpendicular distances, but square will always be positive. Though if I go in much detail, it is taken as a tensor, which at times is behave like a scalar, and otherwise it is having direction. So vectors, so but tensors are not in your syllabus, so you will be calling it as a scalar quantity. So whenever you are being asked, you will write it is a scalar quantity. Factors on which moment of inertia depends, that is of course the mass of the body, size and shape of the body, how the particles are distributed, it means distribution of the mass about the axis of rotation, and position and orientation of the axis of rotation with respect to the body. So all these are the factors on which the moment of inertia of a body depends. This is a very important term, and you should be knowing the factors on which it depends. It means how the particles are distributed. That is important. Now, what is the physical significance of the moment of inertia? Moment of inertia about the axis, it is resisting the change in the rotational motion. Like you are having the more mass, more the inertia. Similarly, if moment of inertia of a body is greater, it means you need a greater torque to change the state of rotation. It is similar to the mass in linear motion, of course. So moment of inertia is less, it means you need less torque, because in place of force we are using the torque in the rotational motion, and in comparison to mass we are using the term moment of inertia and the rotational motion. So these are linear motion, rotational motion, difference should be clear with you. This is of course if I want to find the relation between the rotational kinetic energy and moment, you can do it stepwise. Like if I'm taking the particles m1, m2 having the linear velocities v1, v2, of course omega is taken as constant. The body is made to rotate about the z-axis with a constant angular velocity omega. Then you can write the values for total kinetic energy of rotation, that will be given by the half mv1 square plus half mv2 square and so on for n particles, and you simply replace the value of v by r omega. So for first particle it will be r1 omega, for second particle it will be r2 omega, and so on. So you can derive this relation, which is kinetic energy rotational, that is equals to half I omega square. Or from here you can get the definition, another definition for the moment of inertia. If I take the omega, it is equals to unity. It means I'm making the body to rotate with the unit angular velocity. Of course, angular velocity is measured in radian per second. So if it is unit value is there, then I it is equals to twice of the rotational kinetic energy. It means moment of inertia is twice of rotational kinetic energy. So this is the relation with you for the moment of and the rotational kinetic energy. But of course you have to apply this condition that the body is made to rotate with a unit angular velocity. Next new term with you is radius of gyration, which is denoted by K. This is the new term with you, radius of gyration denoted by capital K. This, if I want to define, this is the perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. So it means units and dimensions will be same as that of distance. So if I have to write the units in dimension, it is of course M0 L1 T0. And the units will be meter or centimeter. Of course, it is a distance being a scalar quantity. Now I have to define it. For defining, you have to just taking its expression also for the perpendicular distance. Which type of perpendicular distance I have to take? So I have to assume, like if I'm taking the perpendicular distance k here at any position, then the moment of inertia of the body remains the same as by the actual distribution of the masses. It means if I'm having m1, m2, m3, all the particles are there, and I find the moment of inertia, and then the same moment of inertia is being found if I take the body mass, total mass, and the perpendicular distance. Like if I suppose that the body is at the center of mass, then that perpendicular distance from the center of mass can be taken. So it is similar to that term, but when I have to define, I have to see that moment of inertia in both the cases remains the same. It means if I assume this distance k, perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation, or I take by the actual distribution of the masses, in both the cases moment of inertia remains the same. So this is by the this is the definition with you for the radius of gyration. So for getting this value of k, we are assuming that let the body is a uniform density body with me. It means all the particles m1, m2, m3, they are of same mass. And that mass, I'm taking it as small m. So small m is taken as the mass of the body, each particle. Fine. Now, if I find the moment of inertia, by the definition, it is equals to the sum of this products of the masses and square of the perpendicular distances for each particle. So, but the particles are at different distances, though their masses are same. So, distances are R1, R2, R3, so on. So, if I put the values, I am getting this expression for M, that is M I have taken common, and inside I am getting bracket, that is R1 square plus R2 square plus so on Rn square. And now if I say that there are n such particles, n is the number of particles, then if I multiply and divide by this term n, then I'm getting m into n, it is equals to this R1 square plus R2 square plus so on Rn square divided by n. So that is not making any difference in the term. Now if there are n particles of each mass small m, then that is giving me the total mass of the body. It means capital M is the total mass of the body. So this distance, that is, this value has to be equals to k square by the definition, and then I can write the value of k, which is coming out to be square root of R1 square plus R2 square plus so on Rn square divided by 2. So this is the second definition for the radius of gyration. So RMS value, it means I can write that the radius of gyration of a body about an axis of rotation, that is you can define it as the root means square distance of its particle from the axis of rotation. So this is one definition. Of course, the basic definition, if it is asked, then that is keeping the moment of inertia same for both the cases by the actual distribution, or where I assume the whole mass of the body to be concentrated. So I can define it as the radius of gyration of a body about its axis of rotation, that is defined as the distance from the rotation at which, if the whole mass of the body were concentrated, the moment of inertia would remain the same as with the actual distribution of mass. So from this definition only, we have got the expression for k, that is in terms of the root mean square distance. So both the definitions for the radius of gyration should be clear. And of course, because it is the distance, perpendicular distance, it is distance only. So units and dimension also you can write. Now, factors on which it depends, again, it depends upon the position and direction of the axis of rotation and that depends upon the distribution of mass about the axis of rotation. So these are the factors on which radius of gyration it depends. Discussed with you about the moment of inertia, there are two theorems. One is theorem of perpendicular axis. The second is theorem of parallel axis. So firstly, I am taking the theorem of perpendicular axis. So what it states that if I have this rigid body in the xy plane, then if I want to find the moment of inertia about the z-axis, that is equals to sum of the moment of inertia about the x-axis and the y-axis. So Iz, it is given by Ix plus Iy. So if I want to write the statement for this theorem that says that moment of inertia of a plane lamina about an axis perpendicular to its plane. It means if this is the lamina, this axis is perpendicular to this plane of the lamina. It means if lamina is in the xy plane, this axis is z axis. Clear? That is equals to the sum of the moment of inertia of the lamina about any two mutual perpendicular axes in its own plane. So if I'm in xy plane, then of course it has to be Iz equals to Ix plus Iy. If I'm in the yz plane, then Ix will be equals to Iy plus Iz and so on. So this is the statement with you that any two mutually perpendicular axes in its own plane and intersecting each other at the point where the perpendicular axis passes through the lamina. So from here, if you make this diagram, XYZ axis can be taken as per your choice. Clear? Now, if I have taken any particle P here of mass M, if I draw the projections on the y-axis and x-axis, I'm getting this distance that is equals to x, while this distance it is equals to y. So you will be completing the parallelogram of this, means your perpendicular axis of this, you have to draw on the x-axis and y-axis. And if I take r as the position vector, then r square can be written as x square plus y square. If the mass of the particle is small m, then if I want to find the moment of inertia about the y-axis, this is the y-axis. If I want to find the moment of inertia about this axis, then the perpendicular distance is x. So I will be writing it as m x square moment of inertia about the y-axis. If I want to find about the x-axis for the same particle, then the perpendicular distance is y. So for this particle, it will be my square. So you have to see what is the perpendicular distance from that axis from where you are taking the particle. So about the x-axis, it is my square. About the y-axis, it is mx square. So if you extend this result for the whole lamina, then you will be getting it for of inertia about the y-axis. It will be equal to summation of mx square. Of course, to be more accurate, I can write it as mi square, mi xi whole square, and I is varying from 1 to. Similarly, you can write it for the moment of inertia of the lamina about the x-axis, taking the limits I equals to 1 to n. So if I replace the value of r, that is equals to x square plus y square. If I am taking the moment of inertia about the z-axis, then the perpendicular distance will be given by summation of perpendicular distance will be given by r. So moment of inertia will be equals to summation of mi ri square. So this mi xi square, that is equals to iy, mi yi square, it is equals to ix. So I will be getting Iz, it is equals to Ix plus Iy. This is the theorem of perpendicular axis. Similarly, you can take the theorem of parallel axis. For parallel axis, if this is the body, this is the z-axis or the axis which is passing through the center of the body. This is what we are actually finding initially. So if this is the axis z o z dash I have written, which is passing through the center of the body, and I want to take the moment of inertia for a particle of mass m which is lying here, then what I will be doing is that I will be finding the perpendicular distance from this line. I want to find the moment of inertia about this line PQ, which is not passing through the center. So if I want to find moment of inertia about this PQ, by the definition, I will be getting that is equals to m into distance, perpendicular distance square, and perpendicular distance is x plus d. So I will be writing moment of inertia of the particle about PQ, it is equals to mx plus d whole square. Now this, if I simply solve it mathematically, I am getting summation of m into x square plus d square plus 2xd. Now if I want to write it for n particles, for the first particle, if you want to see, of course, if I am taking mx square, that is giving me the moment of inertia about this z or z dash, that is about the center of mass. Summation of mx square, that is equals to moment of inertia about the center of mass. Summation of md square, I can write distance is same for all the particles on this line. If I'm taking from this line, I'm taking all the particles, they will be having the same distance. So summation of m can be replaced by the total mass of the body, capital M. So I can write it as md square. Now, if I want to take this term with me, summation of 2mxd, that is equals to the moment of inertia. If I'm taking this distance, 2d is constant. So for n particles, if I'm taking, so for all the particles, if this is the body with me, then all the particles, they are being attracted towards the center of gravity. So torque, जो forces which will be acting, they are going to cancel out in pairs. Summation of 2mixi, it is equals to 0. So summation of 2mixi into g, you can say weight of the body, that is equals to 0, and hence this term we are getting equals to 0. So summation of 2mixid, if I take for all the I particles, this terms become equals to 0. And for this, of course, I can write it as xi square d square, and then I'm getting I about PQ, that is equals to ICM plus MD square. So the statement which I'm getting is that moment of inertia about an axis, which is of course not passing through the center, that is equals to the sum of the moment of inertia about its center of mass plus the product of the total mass with the square of the perpendicular distance from that axis from where you are finding the moment of inertia. But of course, you have to take care that these two axes need to be parallel. So it means PQ should be parallel to this axis which is passing through its center. Then only you will be applying this theorem. So this is, you have to learn how to apply this theorem under different conditions. For that, if you are given with the moment of inertia for the standard bodies, like if you are given with the moment of inertia for a circular ring about its center of mass, like if this is the circular ring with me, and the moment of inertia about this axis which is passing through its center, this is given to you mr square, and I want to find about its any axis which is about its diameter. So this is the ring with me. This is the ring with me, and I'm knowing this axis which is passing through its center and perpendicular to it. This is given to me mr square. These standard results will be given to you. This is given to you mr square. I want to find about its diameter, this. So both the diameters are perpendicular to this. It means Ix and Iy, that is equals to yours plus using perpendicular axis theorem. So if I am having this yours ring with me, then this is first diameter, this is second diameter, and the axis which is coming, that is perpendicular to it. So I will be getting I center of mass, that is equals to Id plus Id by using the perpendicular axis theorem. So IC is given to me mr square, and I want to find ID about its diameter. So It means this is twice of ID, it is equals to mr square by using this perpendicular axis. Twice of ID, it is equals to mr square. So you can get the value of ID, which is equals to mr square by 2. So this is about the diameter, it is equals to half mr square. But if I want to find about an axis which is tangent to this ring, means parallel to this z-axis, then this distance is equals to radius of the ring only. Then you will be using the parallel axis theorem. So I about the tangent, that will be equals to I about the center of mass plus md square using the parallel axis theorem. And this d, it is equals to r. So you will be getting mr square this tangent, if it is tangent in its plane. If it is tangent in its plane, it means it is parallel to this diameter. This is tangent in the plane. Then this about the diameter, it is given to you half mr square. So this is half mr square plus mr square. So this will be equals to thrice 3 by 2 mr square. If they ask about this tangent parallel to z-axis, then of course it will be twice of mr square. If they are asking about an axis tangent in its plane, then it will be 3 by 2 mr square. So you have to read what they are asking, both the cases. You can, if you know this value about its center and perpendicular to its plane, then other values can be calculated by the knowledge of parallel axis theorem and perpendicular axis. This value will be given to you, and this value you need not cram. Only this column you can keep it in your mind, and rest of the things you can find by the knowledge of the perpendicular axis and parallel axis theorem. Like for a thin rod, if I am taking thin rod, means I am taking this rod, have been given with the value for this passing through its center, that is 1 by 12 ml square, and I want to find about its one end, then it will be equals to, this distance will be equals to L only, L by 2. If it is passing through the center, then 1 by 2 ml square plus here's ml by 2 whole square, and you can work it out. You will be getting about one of its end, you are getting its ml square by 3. Similarly, if it is circular disc, like your playing disc, it means it is a plane. Then about its center, you are getting half mr square. Then you can find about its diameter, which is coming out to be 1 by 4 mr square, and about tangent in its plane, it is 5 by 4 mr square. So similarly, you can be given with the passing through the center for the rectangular lamina, that is 1 by 12 m L square plus B square, if L is length, B is breadth. For solid cylinder, solid cylinder, of course it will be same as that of disc if you want to compare, that is half mr square. For hollow cylinder, it is mr square, similar to ring. For solid sphere, we are getting the value 2 by 5 mr square. For hollow sphere, it is 2 by 3 mr square. So this column you need to keep it in your mind, and these values you can calculate as per the requirement. So you are supposed to do this for today. Thank you everyone.